In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about stress. There are a lot of common misconceptions people have around stress. I don't think people really understand what it is and what it means for their life. And I think I've got a unique understanding of stress due to my experience in yoga, breathwork, meditation, where I can give you a new and perhaps enhanced perspective on your stress and also supply you with some tools and protocols for reducing the amount of stress in your life and or dealing with the stress that you have better. So let's begin. Hopefully that's ASMR. The first misconception that people have about stress is that it's bad. Okay, stress is literally just a chemical in your body known as cortisol. When you come into a situation that is quote unquote stressful, I use quotes there because what we perceive as stressful is different for everyone. A situation that is very stressful for you might not be stressful at all for me. And a situation that's very stressful for me might be nothing to you. So what causes stress is usually how we perceive things. It's usually we perceive a sense of danger or a sense of insecurity in an environment. This adapted very early on when we had to physically fight for our own survival. When you get stressed out, you enter a state in your sympathetic nervous system known as fight or flight. Your body kicks into this mode where it has to decide in an instant whether or not this threat that you've detected needs you to fight or run away. The only thing that has changed is that we don't live in a society where we're fighting or flighting for our lives anymore. We live in a very safe, comfortable, posh, cushy environment that we don't have to worry about our immediate survival ever. But we still find things to stress about that make us feel the same way as if we were fighting for our lives. And so the best thing that we can do to reduce our stress is to zoom out and see things for what they actually are and see that a lot of the things that we perceive as stressful aren't actually a threat to our immediate survival, even if it feels like that. Now, that is a little bit of a tangent, but going back to the point of stress being a chemical, it's literally just cortisol released in your brain, triggered a lot of times by your amygdala, which is the fear center, but it is to help you. Stress is there to serve a purpose. In the old days, it was there to help you survive, because when you are stressed, there's also the release of adrenaline, cortisol, all of these chemicals in your brain causing your focus to be very narrow and very focused. It makes your muscles more apt to respond to danger. It decreases the blood flow to your stomach and your digestion and basically sends all of your nutrients to your brain and to your muscles so that you can process information as fast as possible and respond in the best possible manner. And this is very good for short-term things. Sometimes you need to get stressed out, and cortisol can actually be a performance enhancer. If you've ever had homework due the very next day that you didn't even start, one time it was like we had the whole semester to work on this thing, and I didn't even open it until the day before it was due. And it turned out it was like a 30-page research paper. You bet I was stressed, but I also had a level of being locked in and focused that I had never achieved before, and that is because stress can actually be a performance enhancer. Its job is to get you out of the stressful situation that you are in so that you survive and maintain social status and are healthy and safe, and so are your loved ones. That's the purpose of it. And so You might ask, okay, if stress is a performance enhancer, why does it feel so bad? Or why does everyone talk about stress as something to avoid or reduce or all of these bad things? The problem comes when you are chronically stressed, okay? And before we get into that, let's talk about what actually constitutes stress. Stress can be caused by a number of different things. There's a physical stress. Working out is actually a physical stress. It is putting stress on your body. It causes the release of cortisol and other chemicals that induce stress in your body. But this is a good stress because if we allow ourselves time to recover from it, we end up getting stronger and adapting to that stress. Okay, there's mental stress when we perceive ourselves to be in a situation that is quote unquote stressful. Let's come up with some examples, okay? Your boss calls you into the office and you think you're gonna get fired. Your spouse doesn't text you back or your partner doesn't text you back for like a few hours and you wonder, oh, did something happen to them? Are they cheating on me? This, that, that's a source of stress, okay? There is a lot of sources of stress. You can do the rest of the work on this. I can't do this alone. When you jump in a cold body of water, that is a lot of stress on your nervous system. When you go for a run, that's stress on your nervous system. Simply waking up in the morning and going outside and getting sunlight in your eyes causes an increase of cortisol and stress. Drinking coffee increases stress, but these are all positive forms of stress provided we get them in the right contexts. I.e., keep in mind when I said working out is a good stress as long as you provide yourself time to recover from it properly. And that is because the negative aspect of stress comes when we have chronically elevated stress levels for a long period of time. We are meant to be stressed. It's built into our bodies, our minds, and our nervous systems for a reason. But you're supposed to get stressed enough to come up with a solution, take action, and find the solution to the point where you're safe again, and then your stress should spike and it should go back down, and that's where it should remain until you reach the next obstacle. But we live in a society where people are chronically stressed. Even though we are safer, living more comfortable than ever before, people are also more stressed than ever. And we find stress in the smallest things, from, the way a person looks at us, from driving to work, from getting to work, from having conversations with people, being in social environments. The things that stress us out are very, very common and in a lot of ways somewhat unnatural. And that's not to throw shade anywhere, it's just the way I perceive it. But when we have all of these things in our life, you're stressed out, you wake up and you check your phone and there's an email that stresses you out, then you get in your car and drive to work and you're stressed out because of the traffic, and then you get to work and you're stressed out because you've got a performance review coming up and you've got to talk to all of your coworkers and you don't really like this coworker and this thing happened last week, and then you've got to get done with work and drive home from work, and that's stressful too because of people getting road rage around you, or maybe you're the one getting road rage, and then you get home and your spouse is not in a good mood and that stresses you out too because you just wanted to see her and have a good time, or see him and have a good time. And then you go to bed and you can't sleep because you're thinking about work and all of these other things, and there's just a million different things going on in your mind and you can't even quiet it, you can't shut it down, blah, 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 blah. That's what it feels like to me when I'm stressed. Your brain gets in this mode where it's just chronically elevated. Your focus is narrowed onto all of the bad things that could threaten your survival. All of these perceived threats in your environment. And the messed up part is, the more stressed you are, the more likely you are to perceive things as threats that aren't actually threats. Say you just had the whole week off and you're in a good mood, and someone says to you something that you don't really like something. They say something to you, or they like look at you in a funny way, and you just be like, whatever. There's some weird mood or whatever. But if you're in a chronically stressed, elevated state all week, and someone says something to you, you become triggered. It's like, what the fuck did they just say to me? It's like, bro, do you know who I am? Do you know what are you talking about? Blah, 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 blah. It's something you normally wouldn't perceive as stressful becomes stressful simply because you're already stressed. Okay? And that is a problem because it becomes a negative feedback loop where chronic stress creates more stress in your environment that doesn't have to be there. So, it is vitally important that we figure out how to deal with stress, how to adapt to it in healthy ways that aren't going to be destructive or provide a negative feedback loop, and in a way that brings us in control. Okay, so let's start by giving you a general understanding of stress beyond all of the mumbo jumbo that I just said for the last 11 minutes. And let's bring it in from a nervous system perspective, which is the way I often think of these things. Being a very physical person, a personal trainer, a yoga teacher, a chronic meditator, and breathwork facilitator, I think about the state of my nervous system every single day. And I'm getting pretty good at sensing where my nervous system is at. And the way that I like to think about my nervous system as if it was a battery. If you are watching this, I'm holding a water bottle and we're pretending that it's one giant battery. In a perfect world, when you get a perfect night's sleep, you wake up and your battery is completely full. And every time you deal with some type of stress, you are draining your battery a little bit. I go to the gym in the morning, that's a little bit of stress, but I still have energy. I get to the office, that's a little bit of stress, but I still have energy. I get home from work and deal with my partner, and maybe there was a little stress, but I still have energy. And then your battery fluctuates throughout the day and throughout the week. And ideally, if you get a good night's sleep, you should wake up with a full battery each time. But what too often happens is we take out too much of our battery at once, or over time we simply drain our battery and we never take the proper precautions to let the battery fill back up. And so we are chronically operating at a level that's like 40% and below. And even if we get a decent night's sleep, we can't recover from this amount of stress in one perfect night of sleep. You need time to adapt to this stress. So maybe you're at 40%, you go to bed and you only get back up to 60%. Then 60% becomes your full battery, even though you have a much larger capacity. And so I think of this on a physical level. I can tell when I wake up in the morning, after about 10, 20 minutes, I have whether or not my nervous system is full, juiced up, or whether it's drained. Okay, and a lot of times it's based on how I feel in the morning. If I wake up and I'm feeling weak, lethargic, and not doing anything, it's a great sign that I'm chronically stressed, I'm doing too much, and it's a sign that your body is telling you you need to ease up a little bit. Take your foot off the gas and slow down. So when I am feeling like a very emotionally intelligent, in tune human being that does what is right for themselves, I slow down and I just like read a book, and I don't do as much work once I'm done with work that day, and I just learn how to take it easy and rest and relax and give myself what I need. What happens too often is I keep going and I keep going and I keep pushing and I go work out anyways, even though my body is telling me not to, and then I end up getting sick, which sucks, because then you're forced to slow down. So my goal, is to catch it earlier and then actually do the things that help recover before it gets to the point of getting sick. Because once you're sick, it's the point of no return. You're forced to slow down, and if you keep going, you're just gonna be sick for longer and longer and longer, and it's just gonna drag on. And so, one of the best ways to deal with stress acutely, which means in the moment. When you have acute stress, it's like bam, just this moment. It's really quick. It's like an acute angle on a triangle popping up in a graph, if that makes sense to any of you, which probably only makes sense to me. But breathing in certain ways, if you listen to my last podcast about breath work, can help you deal with acute stress. It helps you to regulate your nervous system, to down-regulate, slow things down so that you can feel more relaxed in the moment. And if you make a habit of this, you'll feel more relaxed and it will start to regulate your nervous system more in the long term. But I'm not going to lie to you. If you are chronically stressed, you are just going to need to start by getting to the root of your stress, what's causing it, seeing if there's anything that you can change about your external environment that's causing you stress. If you can't change what's causing stress in your external environment, then you're going to have to change how you look at it from your internal environment. And that comes with shifting your perspective and the way that you view the stressful things that are causing you stress. So maybe you view them in a less stressful way and they don't cause you as much stress. That's like learning how to deal with the stress. So once you get to the core issue, after that, there are coping mechanisms. Breathing is a coping mechanism. So is smoking a cigarette. People smoke and vape because it relieves stress in the short term. Okay, there are all types of coping mechanisms, and you would learn about this if you listened to my episode about habits. But we want, as people who want to be healthy, our coping mechanisms to actually serve us in the long term and not just be temporary band-aids that actually make the wound worse. So, breathing is a great place to start. There is absolutely no substitute for a good night's sleep either. Okay, this is going to be the number one thing for getting rid of long-term stress or treating long-term stress is simply getting a good night's sleep. And this is another thing that makes a feedback loop. Okay, and it goes both ways. If you get a good night's sleep, your day is going to be less stressful because you're going to deal with the stress better. And since you deal with the stress better, you're going to be able to sleep better at night. And then the cycle repeats itself because you get a good sleep, stress is less. Vice versa, you don't get a good night's sleep, you become very stressed out. The stress keeps you awake at night because your nervous system is too chronically elevated for you to switch into your parasympathetic nervous system, fight or flight. This is also why a lot of people who are highly stressed have digestion and stomach issues. Okay, it's not genetic, it's not hereditary, it is the cause of stress in your environment and probably the foods that you're eating. But anyways, get a bad night's sleep, you wake up the next day, and things that aren't usually stressful become more stressful, and it's going to make it harder to get to bed that night too. So sleep is a great place to start. And I dropped a podcast about getting better sleep at night. So go there if that's something that you struggle with. Beyond that, you are going to think about what are healthy ways to deal with this stress. There's breathing, there is sleeping, and then you are going to want to think of the habits that when you are doing them make you feel calm, and you're going to want to do more of them. A lot of times when I'm feeling stressed, I'll just go for a walk. And there's scientific things about a walk, like you're scanning the environment that causes things to be less stressed physiologically, but you don't have to know that. All you have to know is that when you go for a walk, you feel less stressed and you feel pretty good. So try that. Okay, there's other things. For some people, cooking is very therapeutic. For some people, talking to a friend is very therapeutic. I've been drinking tea lately. That is actually something that will reduce your stress just by doing it. And there's a lot of teas that even have ingredients that will reduce your stress. Soon I will talk about the supplements that you can take that will help you with stress. But first I want to cover these habits, behaviors, and protocols that you can do absolutely free to deal with your stress naturally. Okay, you're going to want to surround yourself with people that are not super high stress individuals. Because have you ever been in a good mood, chilling out, enjoying your time, and then you walk into a room or somebody walks into the room and they're super stressed out, and then it starts to stress you out just because they're so stressed out. And it's like, bro, I was chilling before I got with you. Dang. There was this one, I don't even know if I should go into this story, but while I was in Morocco, this guy came into the hotel and he was like, nobody else was stressed out. Okay, there was like this issue with his payment. He lost his credit card, yada, yada. Nobody else was stressed out. But this guy was just like so stressed. I could tell his stress levels were through the roof, and he kept talking so fast and this and that. And I'm just trying to do this. And he didn't realize that nobody else was stressed. There wasn't even pressure on him from the outside. Everyone was like, bro, like, we're going to figure this out. But he created a problem out of his own stress, and eventually it started stressing everyone else around until the point that they started being like, okay, like, they started getting angry with him because he was so stressed, and I started to get irritated too. But I also just wanted to go over and tell the guy, like, hey man, it's all right. You're going to figure this out. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Moral of the story, surround yourself with people that are chill guys, okay? If you're around some chill guys, you're more than likely going to become a chill guy soon. So that's it. And being a chill guy doesn't mean you don't do anything and you're lazy and lethargic. It just means that you don't let unnecessary shit get to you and shake up your system, you know? You're just a chill guy. That's it. And so I'm raking through my brain for more things on how you can improve your response to stress. Exercise, while it actually is a source of stress in the short term, is a great way of dealing with stress because your stress gets elevated and then after it goes down. And a great way to make sure that goes down after is to do some breathing. So breathing in for 4 seconds, out for 6. There's a whole lot of different breathing methods that I talk about in this other podcast where I scratch the surface of that will help you calm things down after. And the biggest thing here is just learning to self-regulate, tuning in with yourself and really recognizing when you start to get stressed. So instead of getting stressed and then responding habitually in your old habits of just going on your phone and scrolling or lashing out at the people around you or going and doing a bad habit or just eating as much food as you can, like I sometimes do, you can be like, oh, I'm stressed right now. Because I'm stressed, I'm looking for all of these different coping mechanisms to make me feel better. Instead of going to the coping mechanism, how about I get to the root of it, the core of it, use these breathing techniques, or I go to the gym, or I go to a walk, or I call a friend. Let me use these healthy coping mechanisms to down-regulate my nervous system to get to the source of where my stress is at, and then do whatever I want with my time, as long as I'm thinking clearly, okay? Because that's the thing about stress. It's gonna narrow your vision till you get tunnel vision. All you can think about is the stress, and all you attract is more stressful things to think about, and then you can't think clearly. I have literally had days where I'm so stressed. I don't get as stressed from like work or external life. Sometimes stuff stresses me out, but I really put myself under a lot of physical stress. Like I'm talking like 16-mile run, next day maxing out on bench press, then later going to Olympic lifting session with my buddy Sean. And that's a lot of physical stress. And then all of a sudden you get in this state where a thought comes in and it triggers you. And all you can think about is this thought, and all you can think about is other stressful thoughts. And it's like a constant bombardment. And even being self-aware of like knowing that I'm in that state, it's not easy. And it took me like a whole day till I like sat down and really just spent like 30 minutes doing some like a breathing exercise, a meditation video that I finally got out of it. And I'm just like, whoa, like I was literally brainwashed the entire day. Like what the fuck was that? I'm so grateful that I got out of that, because that is whack and not a good state to be in. And I probably wasn't a chill guy that day. And that's that's whack too. That's whack too, man. I have fun recording these podcasts lately, so hopefully you guys still get something from this. I know it's crazy to follow probably, but yeah. Stream of consciousness, trying to give you guys the tools. And now I will give you guys the supplements the things that you can buy to reduce your stress. Because in America, that's what this is all about. We don't want solutions. We don't want to get to the core of the problem. We want something that we can buy and that's going to solve it. So here it is. Ashwagandha root. It's a really good one. It'll reduce your stress at night. It'll provide a noticeable difference if you get it from a good source. Okay, there's something called, if you're someone that does a lot of work and you get stressed out from work, or you like get physically stressed from working out all the time like me, there's something called Rhodiola rosea, Rhodiola I think. Rhodiola rosea, Panax ginseng, L-theanine. You can find a lot of these things in teas, but you can also get them in supplement form. There's something called Kanna root, Kanna-root, that will also regulate your nervous system and make you feel less stressed. And apart from that, a proper diet, you guys, will go a long way on your mental health. I promise you, you'll notice a difference if you start to incorporate all natural foods in your diet, start to move your body on a daily basis and exercise on a weekly basis at least. Go outside, see the sun is probably one of the #1 supplements you can put in your life, and surround yourself with good people, end chronically negative thinking patterns by writing them in a journal. I think I'm going to record a podcast about journaling soon. And drink a lot of water. Drinking water keeps you hydrated. Keeping hydrated makes sure that your brain functions at the highest level that it can. And drink some tea, because if you get some good tasting tea, it tastes good and it has a lot of benefits. People that drink tea live longer, and it makes you not as hungry. So a lot of times I'm feeling snacky, I need something to eat, I just drink a little bit of tea, and that helps. So bringing this all together, you really want to form a lifestyle that is conducive to less stress. If you were to zoom out and look at yourself from a third-person point of view, would you look at the behaviors and things you're doing on a daily basis and understand, oh, it makes sense why this person is stressed? Or would you say, oh, this person lives a really healthy lifestyle, they probably are not that stressed, okay? Like, we want to start zooming out, viewing ourselves from a higher point of view or a higher consciousness, understanding our actions and the consequences of those actions, recognizing what thoughts come into our mind, and begin getting to work on doing the work to actually change our thoughts, change our actions, change our responses, and change our lives. That is simply what this life is all about to me, because that's my perspective. You're entitled to whatever perspective that you want. And that is all I have for you today. If you are stressed and you want help with your stress, you can talk to a chill guy like me. You can literally just, I'll figure out a way for you to book a call and we can just talk, okay? No strings attached, just talk. I do coach people for getting better health, better habits, better stuff like that. I'm not going to try to sell you anything. But what I am going to try to sell you is my community. It's $5 a month, the Mindful Man Movement community on school.com. I'm getting together a group of really cool dudes, really chill guys who just want to be better humans, and do that through community, through better habits, and through mindfulness. And if you think that you would benefit from it, because you probably could, I think I'll benefit from it personally, please join. I would love to have you in there. First 10 people, free, nothing, free for life. That's it. And you'll be an extra chill guy because you're one of the founders and you're helping me start something that is deeply meaningful to me. So I will have a lot of gratitude to you. I'll try to leave a link for that in the description. And thank you for listening. I appreciate it. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you. Goodbye.